Hello and welcome back. So continuing on with stipulations for the quest system. Next topic, Zach.
All right, the next one that I have in mind is, should quests be able to be truly failed? Meaning, that's it. The quest is gone. You can't do it again. That quest is over. I think that we should be able to do this. And yeah, there's even some back and forth in my head as to whether we should be able to do this for epic chains, but I wanted to hear other people's thoughts on this matter.
Yeah, I was going to say that really this is a thing where it, to me, seems like it needs to be divided into two sections. You've got your epic, central, all-important, only way to unlock the next continent quests, which, unless there's some other way to get there, you can't really, I think it's unreasonable in that specific types of case to have a failure. It's completely never going to be able to do it, get back again, because you're essentially depriving someone of a chunk of the game they've paid for.
Well, exactly, just like in Deus Ex. I mean, the police station, again, the police station, if you go in and kill everybody in the police station, you're locking yourself out of like 3 or 4 side quests, but you can still do the story quest.
Okay. See, I kind of go back and forth. I think it depends. No, did somebody else have something? Go ahead.
All I was going to say was that you've already got that implicit in some of the quests, especially the player-created quests and the once taken, they become unavailable. But so it would have to be I think it would have to be kind of a standard methodology. It would be odd if that certain quests no matter how many tries they don't disappear. But I don't know, it's a logic thing where
Might it sorry,
go on.
I was going to say, might it come down to at the design stage, looking at your epic arcs and going and basically either implementing multiple solutions, or actually writing those specific few but relatively few quests in a way that is failure is
you can
not
have
an option. I like the
fallback
idea of being
contingency.
able to fail.
Well, I do like the idea of being able to fail in one of the main quests and it not be the end. If you fail and you fall back onto your plan B, which is a much harder in a way, but much more likely it's a much trickier but much more likely to succeed method.
Well, yeah, it's the difference between in like Assassin's Creed, between sneaking in and performing a flying assassination, or just literally fighting your way through the hordes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose tied into this is the question of character death. Is that a no-no?
That's another.
Yeah, that seems like a whole other topic.
Well, it seemed to me that would be the sort of the way you would fail an epic quest would be through actually just literally being unable to do any more quests because you're dead.
We'll discuss that later, but I don't think
that is an interesting way to fail in a quest. I'll give you that.
It limits your options, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, death has a way of doing that.
Yeah, in general, though, any quest where it's not absolutely necessary to finish the game, for want of a better way of putting it, it should really be an option.
I do think that. No, I was going to say I do think that you could run into an issue where you get locked to an advancement. You get locked in your current state because you can't advance any further because you failed all the quests that you have to advance. But if we have the churn of, the procedural
background radiation of
then that's not going to be a problem. You'll be able to churn your way through. It won't be particularly fun though. That's the thing.
Right.
Enjoyable, really, more than fun.
But I think it would be in extremis cases.
Yes, it's
where that would
same
be
as the.
And in which case,
issue.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're putting yourself in that position, you're being willfully ignorant of how you should be acting in this world. That's my feeling on it. Nelson's not said anything.
Zach hasn't said anything, and he was going to.
No, you guys haven't said anything that I think is wrong.
Wow.
Well, I didn't. I did want to ask, I don't know if any of you have actually played EVE Online, but or for any significant amount of time and tried the Epic Arc, but did you guys know that you guys can fail out of the Epic Arc?
Somehow I'm not surprised with Eve.
Yeah. The way they handle it, though, is that Epic Arc kind of reboots itself every couple of months. So if you blow it and you get completely dumped out of it, you basically have to wait for it to cycle around again. The flip side of it, though, is that if you go all the way through the Epic Arc from start to completion, that's not necessarily the end. If you want to go back later just to make some extra money on the side, you can go do all those quests all over again if you want to.
I think it's solvable equally well by offering inroads back into the main quest. I mean, you'd have to do quite a lot to exclude every possible option for instance, getting to the getting the next area unlocked. Mm-hmm. In a big town, say you're in a port, there's going to be half a dozen ships sailing, and they're going to be wanting people to work on them. There's going to be people sending you on missions there. There's going to be, but it's not just going to be one person who's the key to getting to the next place. I think the way to cover it is to make sure that if there's anything key, it's covered multiple times, really.
But I think that puts an unfair amount of work on part of the designers, or potentially unfair amount of work on part of the designers.
How so?
Well, just because the designers of the quest are now going to have to plan for so many different contingencies.
Well, but I'm talking about a very limited amount of the quests in the game, really and truly.
Yeah, well, I'm all for really allowing for really complicated ways to have quests work. Like really complicated, really interesting sort of quests. But I think those, once you get to that level of complicatedness, you kind of have to say, if you fail, then you can't just... we've decided that we're going to allow for contingencies, but if you don't follow any of the... go to any of the contingencies that we've allowed for, well, you're kind of screwed. I mean, I'm sorry. Does that make sense?
If you try and fail, and you can only try once,
well, I'm all
then
for...
then a contingency opens up. Possibly, I don't know.
And I would be all for having having a catch-all contingency for story quests, for main quests, for epic quests, and for non-epic quests, for quests that you can fail at, having just an end game where you exhausted all the options and I'm sorry, you're just bad at this game and you can't do this.
Basically, it comes down to the limited number of situations where failure in a quest would cut you off from a chunk of the game.
I don't think that should be... I don't like that, though.
They're the ones where it becomes problematic. The rest of it, all right, okay, you fail this quest, it means that you don't get to go and clean out that dungeon. Well, there's 38 more dungeons in the surroundings of this town alone,
Couldn't you still work in the concept of if you failed and were completely cut off from it, you could purchase an identity, get the quest again, and then somehow have a scrubber, somebody who can update the records once it's been confirmed that you've completed under this other identity, put your actual character back in good standings? Just a rough idea throwing out.
Or even just have that failure scrubbed off your record and see if you can find a way to get the quest done through someone else.
Precisely. Where you go out and you find somebody kind of in the underground to handle doing something like that for you.
Right, and I kind of... That's what I sort of meant by contingencies. Having not necessarily... I'm talking about the catch-all. There has to be a catch-all for Epic Quest, and I think that's the biggest question. Not whether or not we'll allow for contingencies for quests, but whether or not there'll be a catch-all for story quests, and possibly no catch-alls for non-story quests. I think that's the big question.
I mean, a great example of this is in... I know I keep going back to this, but in Neverwinter Nights 2, when you finish the beginning stuff in your village and you end up in Neverwinter for the first time, you only have access to the docks area. that part of the city. In order to get, because the police have got it all locked down. Now, at one point in the game, you come upon, you get sent by the chief of police to go and kill or bring in this big-time villain in the area. At that point, he makes you an offer and says that he can get you in through the secret underground ways to the rest of the city. If you take that, then you open up the whole that side of the epic arc, which takes you through the underworld, and you have to go and firebomb the police station and so forth. Whereas if you kill him and return his head to the chief of police as a reward, and you know this in advance, she's going to give you a special cloak which enables you to pass freely through the gates to that part of the city, and that opens up an alternate arc where you're almost doing the opposite side of the same missions. Do you see what I mean?
I mean, are we going to be introducing that level of... I mean, I would love to, but are we going to be introducing that sort of level of complexity into the Epic Quest? Because once we talk about this being an MMO, now you can potentially alienate your friends that you're questing with, which is apparently a big no in the world of MMOs, but I may be mistaken.
No, I don't disagree with you. Really, the big reason I brought it up was primarily because the existing paradigm for any quest that furthers the story is that there's no real way that you can ever really fail it. And I just wanted to throw the question out there and see if everybody thought we should stick to that paradigm, or if there were other ways to approach the problem that anybody had considered.
So at least give it the illusion of true failure. If you don't go out and start, let's say you've worked all this time in the game to have a great reputation and not ever do anything shady, but now you have failed this epic quest, it's truly failed, unless you start dirtying your hands up some. And
right.
Yeah, I'm all for kind of like a pseudo-failure where
exactly.
there's still a contingency, but it's just not a desirable solution.
Exactly.
Well,
or even if it is a very similar quest with it doesn't have to branch off and be a complete whole new branch of 83 separate things. It can branch off just enough to get you over that hump of, oh dear, I accidentally in this bar brawl killed my contact. That would be a failure of where it would stop you continuing in that chain. But if he's got contacts in the local area, other people are there's going to be someone else you can speak to who can get you past that. Again, it's tied back to the idea of why is it always the same guy in the same shiny suit giving out the same quest? Why isn't it one of the other 8 people in the,
But if I wanted
because
to say,
they're field workers, Gavin. They can't give out quests. We established that.
But if I want to go for the Zach approach to this conversation, I would say I would say that if you killed that quest giver, how did any of your friends get that quest?
Well, they don't. That character's dead.
Or anybody else on the server, for that matter.
But in what I was saying, that's not a problem.
Not only did you just screw over your run through the epic quest chain, everybody who comes after you is now screwed as well.
Which means I could go and complete the quest, kill the NPC, and
now you're the only person on the server who can get that quest done.
Get to endgame.
That's right.
Sweet.
I like it.
Toasted would love that.
Oh, heck yeah.
He would.
All right, let's go ahead and let's conclude the video here, and we'll pick back up in the next. Thanks a lot, guys.